Well, we're about to get started. So we have a couple of seats in the front, and so I see a lot of familiar faces, and I really appreciate you all coming out to participate on this very special occasion. This means a lot to us here. I see a lot of familiar faces, and that makes me really happy. And these people helped to make this building what it is today. It wasn't always like this, so just look around, you know, what a great place. But what you see now was not always the case. And I know that many of you remember those days. I didn't come along until October of 2004, so I haven't been here that long, although it feels like I've been here forever. My first real experience with this building came in 1996 in my work with Baylor in the museum program. Part of my interest was feasibility studies for adapting historic structures to be used as museums. So this Georgetown and this building happened to be one of my first stops. And I just wanted to share with you kind of my feelings that day. And I might have to edit some of the language here. It was very interesting. I remember walking a tile that were original, and the hazardous trip to the second floor up the stairs, the leaky roof, the pigeons. We still know about the pigeons. I could go on, but I'm trying to make this a short program. I left that day thinking I feel a lot better now that I'm outside of the building. I feel a lot safer. But my conclusion on the study was we need to gather up a lot of dedicated individuals, worker bees, and raise a lot of money. And 11 years later, look how far we've come. And now I can't imagine not being able to come to this place to work. Before I didn't, I was like, I was ready to get out of here. But now, after the restoration, what a great office. And I think this will be second only to the courthouse when it's through, as far as pleasant spaces in Georgetown. But this didn't happen overnight, and I wanted to sincerely thank a lot of people. First off, the Williamson County Historical Commission members, many of these people are no longer with us that were involved with the project, and we miss them greatly. But they had the vision to initiate this project and follow through and get the historical marker in the end, and we're still growing and still going. I also wanted to thank Williamson County for their early and ongoing support. Without this continued support and meticulous maintenance of this building, it takes a lot to maintain a building like this. There's a lot of quirky, little weird things that go on with historic structures. A lot of you probably have historic homes and you know exactly what I'm talking about, but the guys at the facilities, the maintenance department in Williamson County, we know each other intimately, and so it's been a very good relationship, and I think those guys should pat themselves on the back for keeping this building beautiful. Also, I'd like to thank the City of Georgetown for its continued revitalization and preservation efforts, because Georgetown, the quality of living in Georgetown and life is so great, and losing a historic structure like this on the square is no longer an option. And that's a really important, in my eyes, one of the most important things about our downtown square. And lastly, I have to plug the museum. I would like to thank the Williamson County Historical Museum Board of Directors for helping to ensure that once the building was restored, it wouldn't just be a pretty place. It'd be an alive, dynamic place that for our mission, we have people in here. The point of this building is to have people in here, and we really do it, as you can see today. We have a lot of supporters, so I really thank our Board of Directors for their hard work and dedication to our mission, and our staff and our volunteers, because without them, we couldn't do any of this. So thank you all for your hard work, and this marker is so deserved, I just can't say it enough. Thanks.
For those of you without a dentist card, that was Chris Dyer, the director of the Williamson County Historical Museum, if you wish to send cards of condolence. I'm Bob Brinkman, the chairman of the Williamson County Historical Commission, and I want to thank you all for coming today. We don't dedicate markers every day in Williamson County, but by my count, this is the 240th county marker in Williamson County. which ranks us 5th in the state, a few behind Galveston, and actually 1 ahead of San Antonio, Bexar County. So we'll stay ahead of them. I want to invite you, if you're interested in preservation, there are historical societies in Williamson County, in Taylor and Georgetown and Cedar Park for you to join. There are landmark commissions in Georgetown and Round Rock, and I think Cedar Park too. There's a lot of opportunities for you to help us tell the stories of Williamson County that are from the 19th and 20th and 21st century that are ongoing. There's always oral history to be done, starting with your own family and your own parents and grandparents that grew up here and, like today, work very hard to make life better for the next generation. And also the County Historical Commission itself, we meet here in this building, thanks to the county, the first Thursday of each month at 2 o'clock. In fact, the next meeting is next week, so we welcome any of you that want to come see what we're all about and what we're working on too. We are going to get things started with the presentation of the colors, followed by the pledges to the American and Texas flags by Boy Scout Troop 151 of Georgetown, Tyler Espy and Rogan McKenzie.
Suggested we pledge the Williamson County flag, but we need to write that one, so we'll go ahead and we'll follow on with this young man, so give him your support.
Please follow me in the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. 8.
Now, would you like to do the pledge for the Texas flag? You know that one?
Yes.
Good. Fantastic.
Please follow me in the pledge of the Texas flag.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one and indivisible.
Nikki Ross, a dedicated museum volunteer, will be leading students from her 4th grade class at Ford Elementary in singing Texas Our Texas, so we invite you to sing along.
Texas, our Texas, all hail the mighty states. Texas, our Texas, so wonderful, so great. Boldest and grandest, withstanding every test. Golden high, wide and glorious, you stand so greenly blessed. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, that you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, that you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long.
Introduce some special guests and dignitaries here with us this afternoon, beginning with United States Representative John Carter and his wife Erica. Williamson County Precinct 1 Commissioner Lisa Berkman. Williamson County Precinct 3 Commissioner Valerie Kogi. Williamson County Treasurer Vivian Wood. Mayor Gary Nealon of Georgetown. Mayor Mervyn Walker of Weir. Georgetown Councilman Ben Oliver and Doug Smith. I also invite the members of the Williamson County Historical Museum Board to please rise. Be recognized. And also the members of the Williamson County Historical Commission. Thank you all very much. And at this point, we are going to have a word from our Congressman, U.S. Representative John Carter.
And you know, it's kind of, everybody has their nostalgias. If you look out the front door here and you look up at the second floor, that window was my office in the courthouse from 1981 until we moved into the new courts building, which I think was either 89 or 90. I don't remember when it was sure. And so I looked out at this building anytime I was sitting in my office, I was looking out at this building, and I always thought it was a really, really neat building. And of course, I lived in Round Rock at the time, and I wondered why they didn't have a former state bank anymore, because we had one in Round Rock when I first came to Round Rock. Then I understand, if I recall, we stored county records in this building for a good while. Although I will admit that I never came over here to retrieve any records. I got any records, I sent somebody to go. But I always thought that it should be preserved, because the front of this building was always such an outstanding facade to look out on, and it kind of defined history. And you know, I think that the preservation, I am a history major. That's what I studied in college. I believe that we learn from the lessons of history. And I think one of the great criminal acts that's seems to be going on in this world today, is that people are trying to revise history or just make us not think about history. But it's the experiences of our previous dwellers on this earth that gives us an idea of what kind of experience we're going to have. And I think it's important that we look back at our history and realize our successes and our failures, so that we can live and give our children a better chance to live their lives. And hopefully they'll look back on our history and want to preserve it, because they'll feel that it gives a lesson for them. This room gives a lesson of rugged individualism and can-do spirit that those of us that know Williamson County know it carries across the county, whether you're a newcomer or whether you're been here since Three-Legged Willie came in here. So, and by the way, if you don't know, Three-Legged Willie was the judge of the 1st District Court of Texas. He was a district judge. I always liked that. I had it on my wall in my courtroom. Court 1 was in Nacogdoches, Texas, and Three-Legged Willie Williamson was the 1st district judge of that court, and that court still exists today. Court number 1, the district court. Little history lesson to go with the museum. My wife and I are honored that you will let us come over and join you for this, because this is, I tell people I live in Round Rock, but for almost 21 years, most of my waking hours were spent in Georgetown. And so I consider myself to have 2 hometowns. And I'm glad to be here in Georgetown for this.
Next on our program, the Vice Chair of the Williamson County Historical Commission, George Meyer, is going to give us a narrative on the history of Farmer State Bank.
I appreciate what Congressman Carter said about the rugged individuals that have been in this town. And some of them have had a direct association with this bank building. The earliest activity that we could find was when J.M. Turner purchased half interest in the property here from E.H. Napier. This lot in the phone map is lot 1 of block 5. The lots around the square are 60 by 120 feet. Most of them are divided so that 30 feet face the street. In 1875, Turner sold his half interest to A.T. Glasscock, son of George Washington Glasscock, who was the namesake of Georgetown. Later that year, Glasscock sold his interest back to Turner for $400, and the property became a rental property until 1909, when the Farmer State Bank purchased it. The first structure built on the site was a saloon and billiard hall. There were several saloons around the square at that time to serve the local customers and thirsty cowboys coming up the Chisholm Trail. In 1879, railroad came to Georgetown and brought a wealth to the area. Limestone buildings began to replace the wood structures around the square. J.M. Booth built a two-story limestone building on the south side of Lot 1, and in 1889, Turner's neighbor on the north built a two-story limestone structure. So all Turner had to do is build a front and a back and cover roof, and he had his own two-story building. And so if somebody tore that building down next door to that, I don't know if they'd take their wall with them. The building had a center wall, and on the south side was a restaurant, on the north side was a barber shop. Sometime in the 1890s, the wall was taken down and the building became a grocery store. In May 1902, Turner sold his property to A.S. Fisher. Fisher had been practicing law in Georgetown since the 1870s. Captain Fisher, as he was called, led the Georgetown unit that left for the Spanish-American War. In 1901, Fisher was a partner of former Texas Governor James Hogg in the Hogg-Swain Oil Syndicate that helped develop the Spindle Top oil field in Beaumont. That was, in that year, 1901, formed into part of the Texaco Company. In 1916, Texas Governor James Ferguson appointed Fisher district judge. Let's see if we get the rest of it out here. Late in 1902, Captain Fisher sold his property to Judge Thomas Hughes. Judge Hughes had come to Georgetown in 1851 and was a delegate to the Texas Secession Convention in 1861. He cast his vote with Texas Governor Sam Houston against leaving the Union. This might explain why three of Houston's children and son-in-law worked and lived in Georgetown during the 1970s. One of the sons read law with Judge Hughes. In 1907, Judge Hughes sold this building to S.A. Hurd. In the latter part of the 1890s, several private banks were established in Georgetown. One of these was the Merchant and Farmers Bank, which was housed in the Steel Building on the corner of Austin Avenue and 8th Street. We all know that building is just across the street here. In 1905, the bank was reorganized as the Farmer State Bank. A.A. Booty was president. The director was Claude Cody, a leading professor at Southwestern University, and brother of Buffalo Bill Cody. Later this year, we're going to, I believe, have a marker dedication for that home. Is up on University. The Booty House is the house that burnt down, and both houses are just on that block, the Cody House and the Booty House. Booty was a principal in the formation of the Texas Oil Company that later was part of the Texas Company in Texaco. It's interesting that Booty's brother-in-law from Georgetown here became treasurer and the director of the Texaco Company until 1920. So we have a history of oil business here. In 1909, Farmers Bank Board decided to buy the Hurd Building and relocate its bank here. The bank expected to spend $9,200 to renovate the bank, and when the final work was done, it cost $20,000. The fixtures were purchased from J.W. Miller Manufacturing Company of Atlanta, Georgia. The Herd building front was taken away and replaced by a terracotta classic temple pediment. 5 skylights were added to the newly modified roof, and elaborate interior changes were undertaken. During the bank's history, it was never robbed, nor closed for depression. It had a reputation of supporting its clients through good and bad times. I've talked to several of the old-timers here that said that the bank didn't call in the notes or it gave them time during the Depression so they could work it out. And that's been remembered 50, 60 years later. The Farmer State Bank conducted business in this building for 50 years until June 1962. At that time, Tom Joseph bought the controlling stock in the bank from longtime president A.A. Allen. The name of the bank was changed to the Citizens Bank and moved to its new home up at 900 Austin Avenue. That bank is now First Texas Bank. In July 1963, J. Sloan and Grogan's Lord purchased Tom Joseph's interest, and Mr. Sloan became president. He's been a supporter of this effort here for a long time. Ben Newman purchased the Farmers Bank in 1963. He had Gilman's menswear store right next door here. He paid $5,000 for the building, a quarter of what the Farmers State Bank had spent to refit this building. Williamson County purchased the building in 1967, and the furnishings bank furnishings were taken out, and we were fitted for office building. This skylights were closed. There was a false ceiling put in, and the offices were erected. In 1995, the county commissioners designated the bank for use as the County Historical Commission. In 1997, Williams County Historical Commission formed a nonprofit museum board for the purpose of establishing a county museum. But before we could do the remodeling, we had to have an archaeological survey, which uncovered many artifacts from the saloon, restaurant, and barbershop days. There was an article in this week's newspaper that you might have read. It showed some of those artifacts, like a tooth that might have come from the barbershop. They did chemistry there, and bitters bottles and liquor bottles and things like that. The building was restored to resemble, as much as we could, the way that it looked for the bank. We reopened the 5 skylights, patched the tile on the floor, repatched the marble around the edge of it, put iron grills as they were there during the bank's time on the windows. As we said, added the second floor, and we're the only elevator in downtown Georgetown that I know, which we're proud of having. Well, I hope that's about all I have to say. I hope you have time to go around and tour the building after the program. Thank you very much.
Now, the moment you're all been waiting for, we are going to go outside to the sidewalk for the marker unveiling, and Ed Lansford, the Secretary of the Williamson County Historical Museum Board, will read the marker. In light of the wind outside, I believe I'm going to tack down my toupee.
The history of this 900-year-old bank building much as the rich history and uniqueness of our Livingston County future visitors. For the benefit of those who are not in position to read the instruction, I will read it, and then I believe that will conclude our ceremony. Our State Bank building, the Merchants and Firemen's Bank, began in 1898 and incorporated as Florida State Bank in 1905. In 1910, bank officers contracted for the building of a new bank onto existing commercial property at this site. Construction was finished in 1912. In the 1960s, the bank moved and the building changed almost several times. Before Livingston County purchased it in 1967, using it for a variety of offices in the